This episode of How I Built It is brought to you by two great sponsors. The first is our season-long sponsor. Liquid Web has been best known as a managed hosting company with tons of options. It's also designed a managed WordPress offering that is perfect for mission-critical sites. If you're looking for improved performance, maximized uptimes, and incredible support, Liquid Web is the partner you've been looking for. Every Liquid Web managed WordPress customer has iTheme Sync integrated into their managed portal, allowing them to update several sites with a single touch. Liquid Web hosts all of my critical websites, and I couldn't be happier with them. If you sign up today, using the discount code HowIBuiltIt33, you get 33% off for the next 6 months. Visit buildpodcast.net/liquid to get started. That's buildpodcast.net/liquid. It's also brought to you by hover.com. When you have a great idea for your product or business, you need to give it a great domain name. Finding the perfect domain is ridiculously easy with Hover. With Hover, you can easily set up your domain name with the most popular website builders. You can use Hover Connect to set up your domain automatically in just a few clicks. That's right, no more digging through help articles to figure out how to get your domain working. And if you already have a bunch of domains scattered across other domain providers like I did, you can save money by bringing them all to Hover. Eligible domains will include free Whois privacy and volume discounts. So the more domains you have in your account, the more of a discount Hover will give you automatically. Head over to buildpodcast.net/hover today for 10% off your first purchase. That's buildpodcast.net/hover. Hey everybody, today's guest in Season 3, Episode 3 is Jeff Matson. He's a friend and a great developer, and we're going to be talking about his side project, Heartbeat Controller, today. And we talk about a whole lot of different things, including developer tools, happy accidents, scratching your own itch, but knowing when a project is doomed and when to kind of pursue it, and a whole lot more. Jeff provides some great insight on how to learn by doing, and I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. I know I did. So without further ado, on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of How I Built It, the podcast that asks, how did you build that? Today, my guest is Jeff Matson. Jeff, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for being on the show. Jeff is a man of many hats, figuratively and literally. And today we are going to be talking about one of your personal projects, right?
Yep. We will be talking about Heartbeat Control that I launched several years ago, and I'm now just starting to do some updates and everything with it, and kind of moving forward.
Nice, very nice. I remember when you launched this, I was keeping an eye on it. I have not gotten to use it yet, though, so I'll be excited to hear kind of what you've been working on and what you have planned for the future. But first, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and exactly what Heartbeat Control is?
Well, I am Jeff Matson. I currently run the docs over at Rocket Genius, aka Gravity Forms. Between that and various development and things, I am all over the place. So if you've interacted with most Gravity Forms things on Twitter or elsewhere or at WordCamps, you've probably met me or talked to me at least at one point. So I created Heartbeat Control to be able to allow some kind of solution when multiple users are all on the WordPress admin and they're on shared hosting, absolutely blowing up servers. It started out as a small little tiny project that I was like, all right, well, just something we can send to a couple people here and there. And now we're 50,000 active installs later, trying to kind of see where I can go with this a little bit.
Nice. That's awesome. So, like most people I talk to on the show, it sounds like you were scratching an itch that you had that is useful to other people. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So it was what I thought was a completely unique problem towards hosting providers. What I realized is that after a while, after all the different hosts started realizing that this plugin existed and that would solve their problem, I started getting recommendations from everybody from HostGator, A2 Hosting, GoDaddy, all kinds of other hosts all over. SiteGround is another one. all kinds of hosts all over the place that are saying, install this plugin for most basic users that really aren't utilizing the WordPress heartbeat for anything. So they might as well just disable it most places.
Nice, gotcha. So that's pretty cool. It's a relatively simple plugin, right? Is it? I guess I haven't looked at the source code, right?
The current code base is terrible. It's functional, but it's just ugly. It's so ugly because I made it 3 years ago or 3 years ago, something like that. The last updated is 2 years ago. It tested up to is only set to currently 4.39. So yeah, it definitely hasn't been touched in a while. But I've been getting all kinds of requests for a while for things like multi-site support and conditional logic and different things like that. So what I've decided to do is that I have this plugin sitting here. I hadn't been doing anything with it for a while, and I already have a wide user base and massive recommendations. I already have, without even monetizing it or really doing anything with it, I already control the first 3 pages or more probably, of the Google search keyword for WordPress heartbeat. Nice. So at that point, I might as well just try to do something with it. If I can make a little bit of money on it off of a premium version or something, cool. If not, it's at least adding a couple features to those people that really rely on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely want to talk to you more about that, but you like I said at the beginning of the show, you're a man of many hats. So you work for Gravity Forms. Did you also have another service, like a SaaS product or another WordPress plugin that I'm not seeing on the list here?
So I had a plugin at one point called NotifyBot,
Yes.
not long ago. And what that did is that handled notifications from everything inside your WordPress admin, whether it be post updates or form submissions through Gravity Forms or really anything else, settings changes in the WordPress admin. And then you could receive notifications via Slack, via email, via text message, different things like that. What happened with that is it just didn't sell. It really didn't do anything. And so what I did is I just decided, you know what, I'm going to shelve that for a little while. I'm going to focus on some of my other projects. I will be coming back to it. And I'm actually really excited on the different things that I could do with this framework. The framework that I built for it is going to basically allow me to do all sorts of amazing things in the future with any kind of monitoring plugin or any kind of maintenance plugin. So it's not a total loss, but it is right now. It's kind of off into the ether until I have plenty of time for it.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I know exactly how you feel. I built I was building like a podcasting plugin, and then I just realized like I can't compete with PowerPress.
Right.
So I built essentially an add-on plugin for PowerPress, and I'm using it personally, but I haven't released it commercially or really just I want to get more feedback on it. But I know exactly how you feel. I mean, we're both coders. We get an idea and we kind of go off and start writing it, right? So it sounds like with heartbeat control, was there a lot of research involved in that? Like, what did you do up until from the time you realized you had this problem up until the solution you came to, I guess?
So the problem was something that I saw regularly anyways, being at a web host. We saw it quite frequently because what you'd have 50 users all logged into a WordPress admin on shared hosting that are sending requests every 15 seconds. And those are essentially wasted requests because a lot of them are just sitting on a post edit page or just sitting somewhere and not actually doing anything. So what the best solution was is just to make some kind of plugin just to solve that little problem. And it all kind of happened on a bored Friday. And a lot of times I put Fridays aside when I was over at InMotion to kind of sit back and code something new up or play with it, play with different things, maybe submit a patch somewhere or a quick little add-on or, whatever it is, just kind of like a fun day to experiment and play with things. And wrote it, released it that weekend, and I was like, okay, it's there. And then I go back and look at it, and then there's, the download counts just keep going up and up and up and up and up. And then, the .org repo offered the active installs. So I was looking at it, I was like, maybe people are just downloading it, throwing it on dev sites, and then making it go away. And I'm like, no, there's actually a lot of installs here. And of course, the active installs isn't 100% accurate. It's you get a little bit of an idea of kind of how your plugin's growing. And so with that, it turned from a little tiny sort of quick little solution that I just made on a whim to something that people are actually starting to rely on, it looks like. And it's evolved as well to also be a development tool. So when you're doing JavaScript debugging, and I'm sure you've seen this plenty of times, the heartbeat will get in your way.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to run, you're trying to just do some debugging, and then all of a sudden you get another request that completely destroys your debugger. What this will do is this will stop that as well. So what happened is I started realizing, oh wow, people are actually getting other problems that are being solved here by just running heartbeat control in their local development environments. It was brought up to me by Chris Wegman when he was over at 10 Up, and he was like, "Yeah, we're rolling this out in all our development environments now, on his team at least,
Huh.
as a recommended plugin because it helps so much with debugging." And then there's, I think it was Ronald Eureka reached out to me. He was having another issue with, I think it was Gravity Forms, the edit locking, and heartbeat control fixed that too. So it seems like it's actually solving a lot of little bugs that people have here and there. Now, of course, that Gravity Forms issue is now solved, but if it were to ever pop up again, or if somebody else were to have that similar issue, heartbeat control can solve that too. So it's really been something that I just kind of fell upon.
Yeah, man, that's wild, right? Because you made this plugin out of necessity. It's very popular. You did Notify Bot, which is a hard sell, at least, or harder than you thought it would be. And again, like I know exactly how you feel, and I found that like helping something that helps is like being part of a mastermind or something like that. Are there people that you talk to for like business or development advice or both?
Yeah, so I think the people I talk to the most are the all the people at Rocket Genius, whether it be Dave, who also handles Gravity Wiz on the side, is also a Gravity Forms developer, or whether it be one of the founders of Gravity Forms themselves. Really, we pass a lot of information on because we all kind of have our little side gigs and little things that we're playing with and stuff like that. Sometimes it's good and somebody gives you, a great thing, or somebody will also say, no, your idea is horrible, it'll never sell. And so with heartbeat control, we actually thought, or not heartbeat control, I'm sorry, Notify Bot. While I was going through development and everything of it, a lot of people thought it was going to sell. A lot of people were like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I started to get good email subscriptions, and a lot of interest. And then it seemed like when it came down to it, everybody thought it was a really cool idea, but nobody really had a use for it to make them hit the purchase button.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm trying to learn a little bit better about, is how can I make those people hit that purchase button? How can I already use the assets that I already have to take those things and really push it into the market? And so we're going to try it out with heartbeat control. We're going to see, and hopefully it goes well.
Nice. I really like that. So you're taking something you built that's very popular and kind of using that as a test. And I dig that. So you are pretty heavy developer. And so I'm curious to know, so with heartbeat control, you could talk about how you built it. But in general, I would just love to hear about like your development and setup. Like what tools do you use? Before we started recording, you talked about how you were building some crazy thing with Node and you had all these things running. So I'd love to hear how you built heartbeat control and then maybe a little bit about your development environment.
So my development environment at that time was mostly just PHP Storm,
Okay.
Xdebug, that sort of thing, just typical things. I think at that time I was using VVV as well for my environments. Now I've switched things up a little bit. Now I'm actually, since about, I don't know, a month or two ago, I switched over to Visual Studio Code. I'm actually absolutely loving it. I found that PHP Storm was just a bit too heavy for me. I wasn't utilizing 90% of the features in my daily life. I was using the debugger, and then I was using any kind of code sniffing and things like that, which I can get that same thing inside Visual Studio Code. So because of that, I have a lightweight platform that I can just add plugins to as I need or customize. And it's especially easy because I can write all my config in JSON. So with that, I don't have to go through menus and stuff like that. I'd rather just go through something, adjust a value, and call it a day. So I'm using that. I'm also using Local by Flywheel, which I think is a horrible, horrible name.
It is.
I've voiced that opinion several times.
Love the product, hate the name.
Exactly, and I think that's everybody else's. I think that's everybody else's opinion. I think they pushed a little too hard to try to get the branding out and caused a little bit of confusion because, like, hey, what are you using? I'm using Local. What?
Yeah, like what? That's what I'm asking. What are you using for Local?
Right,
using
exactly. Exactly. But I really enjoy that it uses Docker.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I generally prefer, just because you're running a lot of things on bare metal and you're separating concerns, but you're not completely separating environments, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I like that. I also use Docker here and there if I need some kind of weird custom config set up. The project that I'm working on now is a documentation parser. I'm actually going to be, as soon as that's complete, I will be releasing it publicly as an open source project. But that's just running Node locally on my machine, a little bit of Express, and there's a PHP reflection class that I'm trying to use to kind of generate my docs. There's nothing crazy going on here. It's all fairly basic. I would say the only thing that I really do that's a little different than others is I use Dropbox for most of my development environments. So I actually store my environments themselves on Dropbox so that I can be on any machine and immediately pull something up. Or if I need to immediately share that environment with somebody else, it's right there. It's not something I have to, I have to export, zip up, upload it to Dropbox. It kind of kills bandwidth a little bit, so I have to be careful when I'm mobile or I'm running off of battery power. But most of the time I'm docked anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. And my ISP may hate me a little bit, but they haven't sent me any warnings about my usage, so I'm good there.
Nice, man. That's quite a setup, and it sounds crazy and awesome. What's your favorite JavaScript framework? It'll be way out of date by the time this episode comes out.
Right, exactly. It's Vue, though, so it's the newest one.
Okay. So
Vue.js is something that I've really started to enjoy. I'm actually horrible at JavaScript. I'm terrible with it. But I've been trying really, really, really hard to get better at it. And I think Vue kind of was that bridge for me between PHP and JavaScript, where it just kind of clicked a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I was using Angular for a while, and I tried to mess with React, and it just didn't seem right. It just the way it ran and the amount of requirements I needed to do to set it up was just a bit daunting because I wasn't familiar with Webpack or anything like that at the time. So I jumped into Vue and started looking at that. I actually found it by looking for a framework to use with Notifybot, and I was digging around trying to find something that would work for me that was just really easy for me to use, and I can just kind of drop it in. Don't have to deal with changing a bunch of things up in my development environment and everything. Didn't have to I didn't have to package up scripts or anything. And I found out that you could use Vue.js with just embedding it into your HTML and just including the script. So I started messing with that, and then I started getting deeper into it. Did some watched videos on Udemy. I'll do that a lot of times when I'm just sitting around on the couch or whatever, or the wife wants to hang out. So I'll just put on like a Udemy thing on the background, and we can chat, and I can watch what they're doing and kind of get two things done at once. And so I did that, and then I kind of learned a little bit more about Vue single file components and Webpack and different things like that. And so now it actually broke me into really understanding the build process in more advanced JavaScript apps. So Vue is awesome.
Nice. I'm going to have to add that to my list of things to check out. I want to learn React so bad, and I just every time I sit down, I'm like, or I could do something else.
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, right. It's like install these 14 things. Oh, okay, yeah, great. Awesome. So we are crossing the 20-minute mark, and there are generally 3 questions I ask, right? But we kind of mentioned at the top of the show that you built Heartbeat Control a couple years ago and haven't touched it since. So I'm confident there aren't too many transformations, but you do have plans for the future. Why don't we talk about those?
So hopefully these things will be out by the time this airs.
All
I hope
right.
so. So, you can kind of try to hold me to it here when this comes out.
Yeah.
But my plans are, for the most part, is to do one thing is multi-site support. That's the number one requested thing I get. Not only managing on a global scale, but on an individual site scale as well. Whereas your network can manage, can basically override individual sites, and individual sites can change their heartbeat frequency that way. I want to do that. I want to do conditional logic. That's something I'm kind of setting up right now a little bit, laying the groundwork for at least. And so that if you only want, for example, this user, when they're logged in, they keep just leaving their window, their editor window open, and it keeps firing off requests. If you want to say, okay, well, I want that particular user to not fire off the WordPress heartbeat, or I want that particular user to only fire off the WordPress heartbeat every 60 seconds instead of 15 seconds when on the WordPress post editor, that can be handled without getting in everybody else's way. So and of course that's going to kind of build into the multi-site stuff as well, because it's all kind of handling it the same sort of on the same sort of framework. So that's one of the things I want to work with. Another thing is I want to work closer with other developers that are actually utilizing the WordPress heartbeat in a good way. So I know that there's some things in Gravity Forms that we use the WordPress heartbeat to check things like partial entries. And so or save and continue, for example. So if you do that, then if you have my plugin enabled, I can potentially cause issues with Gravity Forms. So what I want to do is I want to have a better solution in place to where if you are legitimate, you have a legitimate reason for using it. It really truly requires the WordPress heartbeat, that you can basically override heartbeat control. The only downside is that I don't want everybody to do this.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out a good solution for that. We'll see. I think it may just come down to relationships with other developers that are utilizing the heartbeat. So if anybody watching this is utilizing the heartbeat, let me know, and then we can kind of work something out, figure out exactly where we want to kind of go with it.
Nice. That's awesome. So these additions, right? So currently the plugin's free on the WordPress repository. Are there plans for like a freemium model, or is that what these updates are going to kind of entail?
Yeah, so I do want to go a freemium model with it. The biggest thing is I don't want to take any existing users, and I don't want these existing users to lose any functionality. I want it to operate exactly how it has been, but with a better framework and more support and more maintenance on the free version. But the premium version essentially existing for your larger people that really truly need the more advanced features like multi-site. So if you're running a multi-site network, you're probably making money off of your site. So
Right.
Probably can spend a little bit of money on a plugin to solve your problem.
Yeah, and the same thing can be said about like hosting companies, right? You said
Exactly.
all these hosting companies, and that's really where the big money in WordPress is. So
Exactly, and I think if I could work something out with various other hosts, and I don't have anything worked out at the moment. So if any hosts watch this and want to chat, let me know. But I don't have anything worked out at the moment. What I would like to do is have just an easy upgrade procedure for hosts to go in there and modify the heartbeat, right? So possibly some sort of licensing agreement to where there's some kind of premium WP CLI integration where the host can go, okay, well, I need to quick edit this heartbeat on this site, and then edit it. Then the client doesn't ever have to do it. So one of the reasons my plugin is as big as it is because people don't know how to do this stuff.
right.
If you told me, many years ago before I even wrote this, like you need to change the WordPress heartbeat. What are you talking about? Like I don't know any of this stuff. I'll have to look up the hook, find out what the hell it does, and go from there. People just don't want to have to deal with it. If they can just install a plugin, it solves their problem. But I want to be able to provide a good solution for people who just have a small blog or anything their host may be getting on their case a little bit, but to provide a little bit of a more premium solution for those who are truly relying on it quite a bit, or the hosts that really need to make changes to other sites across their network.
Gotcha. Well, good luck with all of that. That sounds like a good plan, and it sounds like you've got a good base audience to market to initially. So I'll be curious if you come, maybe if you come back on the show in a year or so, let me know how it goes.
We'll do it.
The last question I want to ask before we get to the bonus questions is, do you have any trade secrets for us?
Trade secrets. I would say the biggest thing is just to document the hell out of your code. Because I go through things like, I'll shelve something for a while, little personal projects and stuff, and I'll shelve it for 3-4 months, and then I'll come back to it. I'm like, what the hell is this doing? I have no idea why I wrote this the way it is, or what's going on here, and then I'll change something and break something else, and all that other things. And I'm the guy who does the documentation for Gravity Forms. Like, you'd think my code would be better documented, but my own personal code is horribly documented. So what I would definitely say is document your code well, because it saves so much time.
Awesome. Love that. I got to be better at that. I have a linter installed in Atom, which is my editor, that yells at me if I don't have proper doc blocks. So that's helping me out a bit. But
yeah, I do the same thing actually in Visual Studio Code as well. There's the same thing. Unfortunately, a lot of times I'll ignore it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's exactly. But that's great advice. Definitely document your code. If for nobody else, then for future you, who's going to be, like you said, super confused, right?
Exactly.
So, cool. Well, thank you for joining me. The bonus questions part, I'm still experimenting with. So I don't know if this is actually going to launch during the normal episode or as like an add-on later. Because I want to try to get like Patreon going for this to see what I can do. But this is the bonus round with Jeff Matson. I was going to call it the Fast Five, but there are 6 questions, and one is not necessarily a fast question. So the first 5 I want you to answer. First thing that comes to your mind, basically. The last question, you can kind of think out a little bit. Sound good?
All right.
All right. What's your favorite book at the moment?
Favorite book is probably Ready Player One. I'm not reading a book at the moment, but actually, you know what? I am reading another book at the moment. I didn't even think about that. I have been reading a little bit here and there of Code Complete, which is a very, very, very good book. If you want to learn more about best development practices that are completely platform agnostic, that is the way to go. But entertainment-wise, Ready Player One is probably my favorite book at the moment.
That is an excellent book. Somebody just recommended The Circle based on the fact that I like Ready Player One. So if you're looking for new fiction, I started reading The Circle. There's a movie coming out. It'll have already been out and out of theaters probably by the time this episode airs.
Nice.
But I'm enjoying it so far. What is music that inspires you?
I listen to so much different music. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably see me constantly sending out all kinds of stuff with different music that I'm listening to. But I think music that inspires me. Well, lately I've been listening to a whole lot of electro swing. That's right. So it's like a different little subdrama. It's crazy. So it mixes my perfect like little 20s 30s swing music type stuff, or 50s more so, I guess, with more of a modern take on different things. Oh my god, it's changing my life. So that's what I've been listening to a whole lot of lately.
That's excellent. I actually have a playlist of that. My friend introduced me. Like, there's a song called, I think, Gold Digger that I just like love. It's great. I'll send you a Spotify link. What is your favorite food?
Tacos.
Tacos. Nice.
What's food without tacos?
Yeah, exactly. Katie Richards. I don't know if you know Katie Richards.
I do.
Nice. She's excellent. She has a theory that you never want tacos until somebody else mentions them. Mm-hmm. So now I definitely want tacos. I'm going to go get tacos after this recording.
I will too.
Who is your favorite sports team?
New England Patriots.
The New England. We gotta shut it down, everybody.
I know everybody hates me now. Everybody just hit the stop button right there.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm a Yankee. I'm a Yankee fan. So.
Ooh. Oh yeah, that's right.
Now,
I saw you.
Now no one's listening.
I saw your your whole post on Facebook with your new child there wearing the Yankee stuff.
Yep.
I like this because it's first baseball stuff, but does it really have to be the Yankees?
It's gotta be the Yankees, yeah. So my wife and I have a spirited debate about that because she's a Phillies fan. So we're gonna let the girl decide, and the way things are going, she's gonna be a Yankee fan because we watch way more Yankee games than Phillies games.
What are you gonna do if she's a Sox fan?
Oh man, that's like, I don't even know that. You always worry about the thing that your kid's going to tell you that will just break your heart. And I'm pretty sure that would be it for me. Everything else will be fine. But Dad, I love the Red Sox. Oh God.
Yeah, I'm from New England.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta support my team.
Gotta rep your teim, absolutely. And
Exactly.
I mean, the don't tell anybody I said this, but the Sox are a good team. So
Well, it's on the recording now.
I know. What's one thing that you wish you knew when you first started developing?
That I just need to get shit done and not worry about what other people think about my code so much.
All
Just
right.
get it done. Just get it written, and it will all kind of come together. And that's actually something that I've recently kind of trained myself and learned to do. Is that I'll just take code and just chuck it places, and my variable names suck and all this other stuff sucks, but I'll just go back through it later. The big thing is just to get something barely functional running, and then go back through, refactor, do all your other stuff. I spent so much time figuring out structure that I'm just wasting time because I'll end up changing that structure later when I go and implement something else. So definitely just get it done. Don't take the time to worry too much about what your code looks like or what your structure looks like and everything. You can always fix it later.
Nice. I dig that. And then here's the last question, and you could put a little bit more thought into this,
Sure.
If you want. How did you learn how to program?
Well, that is actually a bit of a story. It was actually I told that a little bit on HeroPress on an article I did for them. I think it all kind of started when I was, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, late middle school, early high school. And my mom actually took a college elective course. She's working on one of her accounting degrees on HTML. And so there was a basic HTML course that I took, and this is like pre-CSS, pre-like real CSS.
Yeah.
And so I kind of looked over it and I read it from cover to cover and started trying to do things and started toying with things a little bit and made some really, really ugly websites and went from there. I kind of put things aside for a little while, and then I was doing server related things for so long, and then kind of jumped back over to the affiliate marketing side of things, and then jumped back when I started working at hosting provider, so I was doing more hosting stuff, and then I ended up jumping back. I'd say probably about 4 years ago, heavy into development, and kind of went from there. So that's really kind of the whole path to it. It's all entirely self-taught by myself, no schooling. I'm personally I'm a high school dropout, so I think development's one of those things that it doesn't matter what your education is, as long as you can produce quality code, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess I'm the exact opposite of that. I have my master's degree in software engineering, but I self-taught HTML, CSS, and PHP. I learned Java in college.
Right.
Yeah, so they're right there. But the biggest takeaway for me was grad school, because that was kind of how to architect programming or software. But as long as you, and especially today, there are so many resources out there, to learn and teach yourself. And going back to the thing that you wish you knew when you first started is just do it. Just try something. This isn't heart surgery, so
Yeah.
you can, if you mess something up, you can undo it. So
That's true, unless you delete an entire client's database.
yes,
So don't do that.
I should say, caveat, when you're working on your computer locally, you likely won't destroy anything.
It's true.
So don't do anything on a production server, kids. It's
Exactly.
A PSA from Jeff and Joe.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, I've come across all kinds of people, and I don't know how much time we have left on this podcast, but
this is the bonus round, so wax poetic. Yeah.
Well, cool. So I've had a lot of people ask me, especially a lot of people from back in high school and things like that have asked, "Hey, like, how are you doing as well as you are? How did you get into development and stuff?" I was like, dude, just learn it. Like, don't go to, like, they're like, should I go to school? Should I do this? I'm like, I mean, you can, and if that's how you learn the best, then awesome. Like, personally, my wife can't learn anything on her own. She has to be taught it. But the easiest thing to do is just to go out there, look at different things, get on GitHub, mess around, push stuff up there, let people criticize you, and just kind of just make stuff. Just make whatever you feel like making.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I tell my students now, go bang around on CodePen. Like, I didn't have CodePen when I was learning this, but just like take a pen and fork it and change it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Refresh, if you need to fix it again. So that's
Yep.
awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you.
Thanks again to Jeff for joining us. Had a great conversation. Thanks to Liquid Web and Hover.com for sponsoring the show. Definitely check them out and say thank you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out the Patreon for this show over at patreon.com/howibuiltit. And if you like the show, definitely make sure to give us a rating in Apple Podcasts. Ratings help people discover us, which means more listeners, which means better support, which means better content for everybody. And I want to thank Eric Bison for leaving a 5-star review. He says, "I love hearing the real stories of people building products. So much insight, actionable advice, and lessons learned in this show. Highly recommended." So thank you, Eric, for that fantastic review. If you want your review read on the air, please leave one so I can read it. And until next time, get out there and build something.